Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's partner webinar. We are so delighted to have Sean Lucas, our Director of Product Solutions Architect, to talk about the essence of innovation today. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. All lines are currently on mute, so if you do have any questions, please send them over through the Q&A window. We will answer all the questions you have at the end during our Q&A session. We are recording this webinar, and we will be sharing the recording as well as the slide deck after the event. If you do have any trouble with audio, please try hanging up and call through your phone. All right, so before we get into today's presentation, I would like to share a new engagement program that we are implementing. So Sean, if you can share those slides.
I thought I was sharing. Hang on. Did I stop sharing?
I think they dropped.
Well, let's fix that real quick. My goodness. Share my screen. I thought we were sharing. There we go.
So we want to make the time you spend with us on these webinars every week a little more meaningful and engaging. So we decided to make these webinars a little more fun by bringing in incentives and the potential to earn points. We will introduce these incentives in a few different phases. So in the last few weeks, we started off by giving out attendance prizes for attending at least 40 minutes of the webinars. Today, we will bring in more opportunities to win an even bigger prize. So look out for an incentive opportunity in today's webinar to earn some money. Hint, hint, a poll. All right, next slide. Here are just a few examples of prizes and rewards that you can redeem. One note here is that the prizes vary per region. So what you're looking at now is just an example of the North America view. Next slide. So in order to collect these points, you must be signed up and registered on the Ruckus Partner Portal. Then you can claim these rewards to the Ruckus Incentive Center. These slides will be shared with you after the webinar, along with the recording, so you can review them in more detail on your own. And if you do have any questions regarding this new rewards platform, type in your questions in the Q&A window or just send me an email at anna.glumac@comscope.com. All right, now let's get back to today's partner webinar, and we'll hand it over to Sean.
All right. Thank you so much, Anna. I do appreciate it. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the essence of innovation. We're going to talk about when innovation is the differentiator. And think about that for a minute. Everybody that's out there today, chances are you're invested in some way with the way we do business and with CommScope and historically Ruckus Networks. So you're going to see some things here maybe that you've seen before or heard about. But what we're going to talk about is how our primary differentiator is exactly that, innovation. We make this stuff. We create this stuff, and we do it to solve problems, not just to sell technology. But we're going to talk a little bit about what innovation actually means and how it affects to innovations that are available today, innovations that are available tomorrow, and innovations that we very, very recently released. So let's talk about expectation versus reality first. You know, we always ask ourselves when we create technology, how's this going to change the world? Like, think about the first time somebody sat an iPod in front of Steve Jobs. I know that's a really, really grand version of it, but or maybe when Thomas Edison created the light bulb. I mean, it was pretty obvious in ways that it would change the world, but it wasn't the invention that changed the world. It actually didn't do anything. The innovations never change anything. It's how we use them that changes things. So because this is a Sean Lucas presentation, no input from anybody else but me, this is going to be a little bit of fun first. So if you've never been to one of mine before, I like to have a little bit of fun before we get started, just to remind everybody that, what we do for a living, it's a job, but we can have fun doing it too. So change comes when the world wants it. I've given you guys a grand total of 7 products that were invented to do one thing, but became world famous for something else entirely. I know you guys, I can't hear you, but I definitely want you to think about this and see if you know what these were invented for. So we're going to start with one of my favorites ever, Play-Doh. But you guys don't know that Play-Doh was actually invented. They were trying to invent wallpaper remover. Crazy, right? Play-Doh came from wallpaper remover. It sounds kind of disgusting if you think about it and you've played with it now. You're like, ew. But yeah, that's true. How about this one? How about Kleenex? Seems really simple, right? And that is one of those products that's so famous that the name of the company became the name of the product. There's actually a word for that too, for things like Kleenex and Xerox. But anyway, my point is this particular product, moisturizer injected into a tissue, is for taking off cold cream, not snot. Who knew? How about Post-it notes? Post-it notes is one a lot of people know because this kind of came from our generation. If you're old like me, anyway. But Post-it notes popped up because they were trying to invent a glue, and here you guys are going to love this, to hold airplanes together. I'm pretty sure it didn't do a good job. I'm pretty sure it sucked. But what it did a great job of is reattaching the same paper to the same wall over and over and over and over again. But it sucked at holding airplanes together, so they used it for Post-it notes. This one may be my favorite. This one may be my favorite. So in World War II, they needed to keep surgical instruments clean. And this product came from that, but it wasn't what it was intended for when it was made. It's actually a cure for a venereal disease. You were supposed to drink it. Ew. Like, ew. 99% of germs that cause bad breath and other bad stuff. All right, how about this one? The Slinky. So again, in World War II, a lot of these products were invented in the World War II era. It was actually a really advanced time for America, but a Navy midshipman on a boat was trying to prevent damage to sensitive instruments. So he was trying to invent a spring that could suspend these instruments on a boat because the waves smacking into the ship, because the ships were moving around pretty quick. It was war. He's trying to figure out how to do that. He brought one of those springs home with him when he came home because he did survive, obviously. And his kid rolled it down the stairs and he went, huh, and created the #1 selling children's toy of all time just after World War II, and that was the Slinky. Now, last but not least, before we get to the coup de grace, the biggest one of the bunch is this guy right here. That guy right there was invented to cure angina, a heart defect in men. The focus group reported, actually, I got to meet the guy that actually ran the focus group for Pfizer, and it's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in a bar. And he said that the entire focus group reported no impact whatsoever to their heart trouble, but they had a significant set of problems otherwise. Here's the last one. Picking it old school. Anybody know what these guys are? You've been around a really long time. You'll see a product that was invented to do something, and the network market decided to use it for something else entirely. What are these? These are the Ruckus 7811s. The 7811 is actually a CPE endpoint for access points, a point-to-point for video distribution. So this allowed you, using 802.11g, to get 1080p video anywhere wirelessly. It had better range. It had better coverage. It had better capacity than anything like it before. These were a matched pair. I still have a set of them in my closet. And they're just the coolest thing in the world, but it's not what they were intended to do. What's inside of it is a beamflex antenna. And the beamflex antenna was actually the birth of Ruckus. And it was a company called Video 54. It was meant to do 1080p video from point to point for hospitality partners. You guys, the people of the world said, this is so good, we need it for other things. And we pivoted and got into the wireless land space. If you want to hear more on that story, you can join me on my podcast. It's called What's That Ruckus? You can find that just about anywhere you love podcasts or whatsthatruckus.com. My very first interview is with the guy that invented this stuff. His name is Victor Strom, and he's employee #1 from the original Ruckus Wireless. But yeah, the 7811 was an innovation that actually was intended to do one thing. We were going to sell that technology, and if you listen to that podcast, you'll find out we were going to sell it to Microsoft. That's the day Ruckus started, and it ended up becoming the access points that we know and love, and we're going to talk about a little bit today. Now, today, we live in a weird world. We live in a world where things are going crazy. We're all stuck at home, and our hair is long, and we're not shaving, and we're wearing the same sweatpants 4, 5, 6 days in a row. Oh my God, I need a shower. But hey, let's talk about what kind of problems we can actually solve. We have students who aren't in school. We have employees like ourselves who maybe are working from home that don't usually work from home. Well, there's an innovation out there, a Ruckus CommScope innovation called the Virtual Smart Zone Data Plane, or the Smart Zone 100 data plane. That product allows you, in conjunction with a virtual smart zone, or a Smart Zone 100, to put students and employees at their desks from virtually anywhere on the planet. And all they need is a connection and an access point. Now, of course, that product can be used for a myriad of things to solve a lot of problems. And we could talk about that at length anytime you guys want to. But the VSZD, or the Virtual Smart Zone Data Plane, again, allows us to put students and employees at their desks from anywhere. All they need is an AP. Now, let's talk about another way to solve another problem. And again, you can hear about this on the podcast because I did this one with Eric Heinrich. And Eric Heinrich is our director of education. And he told me a story about a school district that is using the M510, which is a LTE enabled access point. So it takes an AT&T SIM and a virtual smart zone data plane with a virtual smart zone. What they did is they put these access points on buses. They're driving around the county delivering school lunch. But see, they have a broadband equity problem in that county. So what they're doing is they're actually using them as mobile internet hotspots. So when the bus pulls up, students can come up and pick up their school lunch. They can also log into the internet and get their school homework. Parents can come with them and do telemedicine appointments. It's a mobile internet station that comes to where the people are and allows them to maintain social distancing and still get access to technology. This innovation from Ruckus Networks and CommScope has given us the ability to deliver internet anywhere and remote office capability anywhere. So now's a great time for a poll. Let's ask you folks, as our partner community, do any of you have customers who are working for a mobile office solution? Are they looking for this sort of thing? Have they asked you for it? Or more importantly, have you delivered it?
So you can see the poll on your right-hand side. It'll pop up near your Q&A and chat window. So we'll give you a minute or two to answer. All right.
Good time for Sean to take a drink.
Yeah, take a sip of water.
One of these days, I'm going to count the number of words that I use in a presentation. I know it's a lot.
All right, let's give people a few more seconds. I see those answers coming in. Very nice.
Just gonna play some hold music for you. Just kidding.
All right, we're gonna give people, all right, I'm gonna close the poll, guys.
Hey, you, wake up.
All right, 10 seconds. Nice, 115 people responded out of 202. Nice.
Oh, look at that. Those are pretty crazy. Good for you guys.
Yeah, love it.
All right. So yeah, 86 folks came in and said, yes, people are looking for these sorts of things. So these are problems we're out there solving today. These are problems you can solve today. And this is an innovation that we created to do one thing, right? Which in a lot of ways, it was just bringing data back to the data center for overlay, underlay, Q&Q VLAN. There were a lot of things we were able to do with this when we invented this product, but it's actually enabled us to solve a massive problem out there in the marketplace today. So if you're not talking about the VSZD, when you're talking to some of your customers that are looking for ways to deploy a true remote office, meaning an experience where once they log into this Wi-Fi, they're at their desk. That's the difference between that and VLAN, or not VLAN, VPN. But so if you guys want to talk about that further, feel free to reach out after the fact and we'll talk about some of the differences between VSZD and VPN. But let's move on to the real meat of this presentation. Closure poll. There we go. There we go. All right, the three amigos of connectivity is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Wi-Fi 6, which is something that's available kind of today if it's in stock, and Wi-Fi 6E and CBRS. We're going to talk about how these three amigos of connectivity were invented to do one thing and how are the different ways you can use them and why you should use them with CommScope. First, most importantly, this stuff is not 5G, okay? Okay. Just no. Listen to Grumpy Cat. It's not 5G. 5G is 5G. This is next generation RF technology across the board. And in the case of CBRS, it's LTE. It's not 5G. 5G is something else entirely. So when you hear people talking about these as 5G technologies, they're not. right? 5G is 5G. So if you want to correct them, go ahead. I'll watch. Let's talk Wi-Fi 6. So we're going to talk about a few things that make Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi 6. All right. And I want you to look for common threads. I'm not going to talk about product. I'm not going to tell you all the speeds and feeds and the features. That is not what my presentations are about. My presentations are helping you identify ways you can sell this product by solving problems with technology. Keep that in mind. That's my number one goal. If people ask me what I do for Ruckus, I tell them, hey, well, in the Ruckus product division of CommScope, because that's what I actually do, I solve problems with technology. I don't sell it. I look for problems I can solve. So let's talk about the problems that Wi-Fi 6 can solve by talking about some of the building blocks and benefits of what it does. First and foremost, OFDMA, orthogonal frequency division, multiple access. That is new and that is different, but what does it do? You guys don't need to know the name, and you don't even necessarily need to know what it does. You need to know the benefit. The benefit is network capacity. When we increase the number of subcarriers per frequency, we're able to increase network capacity. So Wi-Fi 6 gives us an increase in network capacity. Multi-user MIMO. Multi-user MIMO is an incredibly cool technology that takes advantage of multiple streams, not only in the radio, but in the client. Meaning that if that client only has, let's say, 2 streams and I have an 8-stream radio, I can use those other 6 streams to serve other clients in the same time cycle. That increases network capacity. Once again, there's a common thread building here, folks. Pay attention. Yet again, network capacity. How about power efficiency or device battery life? Think about this for a minute. Have you noticed that your battery life has gotten better on your phone over the last couple of years? Kind of has. They're just kind of lasting longer and getting closer and closer to lasting all day, despite the fact that we use them like it's our whoopee. Why is that? It's because power efficiencies have been being developed into technologies left and right across the board to help us get more life out of the same size battery. They're not putting bigger batteries in the same size phone, folks. They're just not doing it. All right, how about 1024 QAM or quadrature amplitude modulation? I'm not going to go into a QAM description or conversation right now, but I will tell you that it did provide a peak throughput increase, which is a bandwidth increase. But you'll notice it's probably the least among the things that make Wi-Fi 6 a solution provider. A longer OFDM symbol, right? So that's outdoor reliability and a peak throughput increase. So we do have a couple of increases to throughput, but that's not the real problem that Wi-Fi 6 solves. The real problem that Wi-Fi 6 solves, and the winner for the overall difference, again, is network capacity. You can see it there under BSS coloring, which allows for better coexistence with other networks, primarily on 2.4 gigahertz, where network coexistence is a problem, having only 3 non-overlapping 20 megahertz channels. So let's go back and look at this for a second. In Wi-Fi 6, we have network capacity, battery life, throughput, and of course, network capacity. What I want you guys to remember is that Wi-Fi 6's primary problem solver is in network capacity, meaning the number of devices that can simultaneously use a network and have a positive outcome. Now, we've been solving different sorts of problems with different renditions of Wi-Fi over the course of history. If you go back to the very beginning, right, and we're just talking about 802.11 or 802.11bg or 802.11n, most of those things, especially in the case of 802.11 and 802.11b, were just about getting devices wireless in the first place. That's the problem we solved. We got rid of wires. But then once we were wireless, we needed better coverage. So that's really what we started focusing on in the G space, right, is better coverage. It was faster, sure, but we needed radios all over the place. So high power, all kinds of stuff like that. But it was all about coverage. And then as we got into 802.11n, then it was speed. We needed to go faster, right? And then we got into AC and we started talking about things like capacity and speed. We got raw, stupid, crazy speed in AC. And now we're solving a capacity problem in Wi-Fi 6. So we have getting people wireless in the first place. We have coverage issues that we've solved. And now we're solving capacity issues. Wi-Fi 6 is a solution to a problem. And here's one of the ways that CommScope makes it very, very different. We have what we call the converged access point. Our converged access point is actually putting multiple layers of RF technology into a single radio, a multi-standard wireless access point like the Ruckus R750. The 750 has integrated Wi-Fi, and that's our flagship access point. So it's got some pretty awesome Wi-Fi. I almost said something else, but it's awesome. We'll call it that. And of course, Bluetooth and Zigbee for IoT. And then it's actually enabled for what we call a CBRS backpack for LTE communication. So we're able to converge all of this technology into a single radio for you to provide service to LTE users, IoT devices, and give better coverage, capacity, and throughput to wireless users. Again, that's a multi-gig unit as well. So it's got the backhaul to do the job. That converged access point technology, that kind of movement we have toward converged access points, is part of why us in Wi-Fi 6. At the end of each of these segments, I'm going to tell you guys why us. Ruckus access points have the technical advantages we've had for well over a decade. What am I talking about? I'm talking about things like BeamFlex that I talked about a little while ago, and BeamFlex Plus and SmartCast. That's in every access point we make, almost bar none. BeamFlex Plus, of course, gives us the ability to communicate at any angle and still maintain the appropriate polarity. And SmartCast is integrated QoS in every access point. You know, almost nobody talks about SmartCast anymore. I've been here since Jesus roamed the earth, so I actually can tell you about SmartCast. SmartCast is actually a really cool technology that prioritizes video, voice, data, and then best effort or background. So we're actually able to prioritize traffic. And if you have QoS enabled on a switchport, we're going to adopt that. It's a really neat technology. We have converged access points for creative solutions. And of course, our controllers are cloud, on-prem, controllerless. The power is yours. Let's move on, because I think what you guys really want to hear about is what's coming next. What's coming next is a technology called Wi-Fi 6E. Wi-Fi 6E solves a different problem. I know this sounds like a shock to you. It's kind of becoming a theme here. But Wi-Fi 6E solves a different problem. What problem does it solve? Spectrum, spectrum, and spectrum. That little kid back there that said, wow, look at all that spectrum. So look over here on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a spectrum analysis. And on the left-hand side is 2.4. You know it's 2.4 because it's a freaking mess. It's also, if anybody that's got a real eagle eye, you can see if they're using 13 channels. So this picture was taken in Europe. It was not taken in America, or they're breaking the rules. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the 5 gigahertz side, where the Uni 1 bands and the Uni 3 bands are very busy, but Uni 2 is a dead zone. That's the DFS space. The DFS space, so they're probably somewhere close to an airport or something like that, so they can't use any of those Uni 2 bands. But what does that mean for them? What that means for them is they have no available space. Their airspace is slammed. Whether they're on the 2.4 side, obviously it's just nuts. And that's pretty standard for every building I've been in the last 10 years. You know, 2.4 is crazy. But on the 5 gig side, things are getting crazy too. 5 gig is just about as congested as 2.4 is in a lot of spaces. Yes, there are more channels, but it's being pretty well overused, because remember, on the 5 gig side in AC, a lot of people are using 40 megahertz channels, unless they're really trying to maximize airtime, and then they'll go down to 20 megahertz channels. But we're talking about 2.4 is crazy. 5 gigahertz is crazy. In the 2.4 gigahertz spaces, we all know there's only 3 non-overlapping 20 megahertz channels. And over here on the 5 gig side, what do you have? 8, maybe? Not awesome. So let's show you how that changes in 2021 and beyond, when Wi-Fi 6 becomes a thing. Now, this is not something we're building products for today. This is something we're building products for tomorrow. But I want you to know about it, because people are going to start hearing about it in the news. If you've been paying attention lately for stuff that doesn't have anything to do with coronavirus, you've heard about the FCC approving new technology. That new technology is this spectrum, what we call the 6 gigahertz spectrum. Look over here on the left, 59 20 megahertz channels, 29 40 megahertz channels. And by the way, back over here, we go back one here. On the 5 gigahertz side, do you know how many 160 megahertz channels you have in 5 gig today? You have 1. That's why nobody uses it for anything. You even only have a couple 80 megahertz channels. Now, non-contiguous channel bonding is something that is in Wi-Fi 6, and it is a very good thing, but it doesn't solve the problem when, like this does, 7 160 megahertz channels. And by the way, that's my a-hole dog you can hear in the background barking to get out of my room, so I apologize for that. But 6 gigahertz, we have 59 20 megahertz channels, 29 40 megahertz channels, all kinds of sweet spectrum. This is the problem that we're going to solve with 6E. 6E is going to solve a spectrum availability problem indoors. So inside, we're going to be able to solve that problem. Pretty cool. So what's good about it? Low power operation, right? So it's indoor only. So outdoors, the incumbents are going to be fine because this is an indoor low power technology, no real risk of harming anybody. And of course, really high throughput. It's going to support some really neat new technologies like augmented reality education and virtual reality or high density IoT. What's bad? What's bad is it's not coming until 2021 and beyond. But it's worth hearing about. So why us when the time comes? Because of things like integrated radios and IoT, plug-in LTE, and of course, if you haven't seen Ruckus Analytics yet, there's something else that's really, really going to be neat because as we start to expand into this space and grow into that new spectrum, analyzing client behavior is going to be so critical. So the Ruckus Analytics product or the Cloud Analytics product is going to really give you visibility into these new technologies, new use cases, new customer segments. And that's part of why us, when this technology comes down the pike, we're building for it. Now, the last piece here is one that I've been talking about for about 2 years. I love talking about it. It's one of my favorite technologies in a long, long time. You know, I think I think this is for my boss, Jeanette, it's like year 11. It's year 10 for me. We've been here a long time. And we've talked about small cells for a very, very long time. It's long been a part of our story. And it finally came to fruition. It came to fruition for us with the CBRS or Citizens Broadband Radio Service technology that they call OnGo. Why us? Why CBRS versus Wi-Fi? Well, higher reliability, right? Better QoS. Now, when we talk about QoS versus LTE in Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi 6 actually has the same QoS capabilities as CBRS, but it's still LTE has a legendary QoS capability. Consistent security. We're going to talk about this in a hot second. Of course, mobility, seamless mobility, meaning moving from LTE networks to private LTE networks and back. And of course, long range, non-line of sight. That is a big deal, right? Line of sight, if anybody's ever done any outdoor point to point or indoor, they know that line of sight walls, they tend to cause issues. And of course, better battery life. So let's talk about this for a second. So CBRS LTE has two primary use cases today, right? At least in our head. So the first one is one you can buy and sell right this minute that we call private LTE. Or if you have a SIM card, you can get on the network. That's probably the easiest way to think about it. And of course, the second one is neutral host, which is actually hosting for carriers and earning money from those networks. That's the one that's coming down the pike and is going to change everything. We talk about that seamless mobility. But today, we have a secure wireless technology that, again, and we're talking about physical security. If you don't have the SIM, you don't get on to solve problems in places like retail and places like healthcare with higher reliability, better QoS, and a consistent proven security method, which is a physical SIM card. CBRS versus Wi-Fi is going to give us a lot of ability to solve problems where we were having trouble solving them before in some cases. Places like HIPAA compliant stations or PCI compliant stations or retail and healthcare if you want to use normal human words. Versus traditional LTE, and this is, you know, when we're talking about deploying CBRS LTE versus private or CBRS LTE or private LTE versus traditional LTE. No monthly subscriptions. You don't have to pay Verizon. You don't have to pay AT&T. You just have to pay your Ruckus Cloud bill. Of course, full enterprise organizational control, meaning if I put a Verizon SIM in my cell phone, I'm on Verizon's network. I'm not on mine. I still have to VPN in, and I still have to get into that network somehow. With a CBRS LTE solution, you're already there. Networks where you want it, when you want it. And of course, you have that enterprise access to your data. This is my favorite slide in the whole wide world. I use it all the time. This is the opportunity slide. For any of you out there that are selling today, I want you to pay very close attention to everything I say for the next couple of minutes. Probably the most important thing you'll hear me say in the next year. This is a massive opportunity. These are the types of buildings that are out there today. And this is a subset. This is not the whole thing, but look at the very, very tippy top. NFL stadiums, airports, and convention centers make up a little over 18 billion square feet of what we call the carpeted enterprise in North America. This is a North American slide, folks. For those of you that are over there in Europe that are listening to this, don't worry, we've got one for you too. But in North America, 18 billion square feet in the carpeted enterprise that is above 200,000 square feet each. So stadiums, airports, convention centers. We're going to go all the way to the bottom now. On the bottom, in the sub 10,000 square foot space, that's light industrial, small retail, Soho, you name it. Anything smaller than 10,000 square feet, like the hovel I live in because my boss doesn't pay me. But I'm kidding, joking. Okay, my boss is on the phone, so I got to take a jab at her. Anyway, so 17 billion square feet in that space. 17 billion square feet of small retail. So why are we breaking these out? Because down here on the bottom, they can use things like pico cells, right? They can use cell spots from T-Mobile. It works. It's enough. They plug in, they get their broadband connection, and oomph, they have LTE. It's a little LTE repeater that goes in their house and actually creates an LTE base station. It's technically not a repeater. They do sell those. It's a different technology, but those work too in these spaces. Up at the very, very top, you're using stuff like CommScope DAS. DAS is the right solution for spaces like NFL stadiums and airports and convention centers. Number one, they can afford it. And number two, they have the kind of density that needs it. But look down in the middle, hotels, malls, hospitals, universities, enterprise. There are 52 billion with a B square feet in North America that are underserved by traditional LTE. I'm going to say that again. There are 52 billion square feet of the carpeted enterprise that's too big for picocell, too small for DAS, and underserved by LTE. There is a massive opportunity in that space. And see, those three little things that just came up said everything I just said. So we're going to skip them. Okay, now for those of you in Europe, you guys are really going, well, that's nice, but it doesn't help me. Well, look here. It's in more places than American Express. It's coming to Sweden, Germany, Austria, UK, and the Netherlands. It's coming in different spectrums, though. Look, you see that we got a 3.8 to 4.2, 3.4 to 3.8. It's going to be a little different everywhere, but the technology and the value is going to be roughly the same. So pay attention, stay tuned, and think about the ways that you can solve problems with an LTE solution from CommScope. So why us? Well, we're one of the original CBRS Alliance members. We're one of the first 6 with integrated IoT integration with existing Wi-Fi access points. If you have a customer that has a R series access point, R anything, not OUR, the letter R, like rad, right? If you have a customer with an R series access point, chances are you can put what we call a backpack on it, which is an add-on that adds LTE capability to that network. What am I telling you? I'm telling you, you have a mountain of opportunity in front of you. You can go out and sell private LTE to customers that want to layer on a 200 megabit LTE private network for other types of services. We talk about other types of services. Think about industrial LTE. Think about how crappy Wi-Fi video surveillance has been over the last 15 years. You can solve that problem. You have better QoS and dedicated networking in CBRS LTE. Private LTE can solve problems in IoT. It can solve problems in video surveillance. And you can solve it by slapping it onto an existing radio that you already sold your customer. You have a customer base built in right this minute, a reason to pick up the phone and dial for dollars. And while you're at it, ask them if they're okay. Let's talk about multi-gig switching real quick before I let you folks go. Multi-gig Ethernet is the new standard. If you don't have multi-gig Ethernet today, you're not ready for the Ruckus R750 or the 650. Now, more importantly than multi-gig, because these will work on gigabit interfaces just fine. You may have a few, speed ceilings that you run into. What you are going to run into is power consumption issues. The new switch PoE technologies like PoH, UPoE, and 802.3 BT allow us to power these radios off of single ports. So if your customer is looking at making the leap to Wi-Fi 6, making the leap to adding CBRS LTE, power considerations on your uplinks are going to be an issue. And then we have a full line of ICX switches to help you solve that problem. So ask your inside sales rep what you need for the radios that you're looking at. You are going to need to sell your customers some switches, be it for multi-gig or be it for power considerations. And down here on the bottom, you can see what some of the throughput information is. That's just kind of an info slide I put together for you guys. So 5 gig, 2.4 gig, and then TCP throughput and why you need it. You can see that PoE input. So there you go. These are the 3 amigos of connectivity: Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, and of course CBRS. They were innovations. We started it just like my buddy Steve Martin right here in the middle. We've got a plan. We're going to make great communications technology. Okay. Well, his plan was he was going to break into El Guapo's fortress. They said, what are you going to do when you get there? We don't know. We didn't think we'd get this far. Well, if you listen to that podcast I told you about at the beginning, you'll kind of find out that's exactly what happened. When they came up with the first Ruckus beamflex antenna, they thought something else was going to happen entirely. And you, the market, decided what we were going to do with that technology. And you're still out there doing it today, making us not only one of the names in this industry, but your favorite partner in technology. And for that, we say thank you and we appreciate it. My name is Sean Lucas. They pay me to do this, but it's one of my favorite things in the universe to do. And if I had to leave you with a single thought, I'm going to ask you guys to do me a favor, not just follow me to the bar. I want you guys to go out and do something nice for somebody today. Say something nice to somebody today. America needs it desperately. Just go to your wife and tell her she looks really good in those sweatpants she's been wearing for 5 days. It'll make her feel better. Thank you very much. Anna, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean. Are you open to answering some questions that we have coming in?
That's what I do.
All right. Let's see. All right. We have one question here saying, I saw a number on throughput on CBRS. What is a realistic throughput and high density range?
If you're getting into higher densities, that throughput number is obviously going to come down. So the maximum throughput's 200 megabit, roughly. So as you get into higher densities, that's going to come down into the 30 to 50 megabit range.
All right. Let's see. When do we expect MNOs to allow roaming to third-party certificates and enabling Band 48 so that we can start installing CBRS inside of places with poor cell coverage to boost their signal without requiring a Ruckus SIM or another third party?
Yeah, so I think that's one of my favorite questions in the universe. And it is an unanswered question because it is actually dependent on each MNO. And I think you know that as well. So to not be dependent on a Ruckus SIM, what this person is actually asking is that's private LTE, right? When you buy it, you buy a SIM with it so you can create your own private LTE network. But what you really want to be able to do is that other use case that I mentioned, which was neutral host. And that's dependent on each individual carrier. Now, what I don't know the answer to for you, and if you send me an email at Sean, SHAWN Lucas, LUCAS, like George Lucas without the money, at comscope.com. Send me an email there and I will get you your answer, which is when. I mean, and it's going to be carrier dependent. We honestly don't know, but I can find out exactly where we are from the powers that be. But we have gotten zero updates at my level for when and where neutral host is going to be available. And it is a long, drawn out negotiation because it's about money and everybody's clamoring for it right now.
All right. Do we know when the FCC has finalized the decision to use the 6 GHz frequency yet?
So just last week, it wasn't finalized, but there was some preliminary approval that came out on that space. So I'm expecting we'll see something in the next couple of months.
Cool. And then, do you have any idea about the number of channels that will be available in Europe on 6 GHz approximately?
Well, it's all preliminary right now. So that slide that I showed you that had all of the channels on it was worldwide. Of course, that's going to be different in Europe, just like we've seen in 2.4 and 5 gig. So I would expect there'll be slight differences, but it'll be in the ballpark.
Nice. All right. And then we have one more here. For small school bus Wi-Fi deployment, and the customer already owns a Zone Director 3000, is VSCD needed or just the M510?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one to see if the M510 works with the Zone Director. I'm pretty sure it does in the 10.0 firmware, but I have to double check on the M510 because that is kind of a special one. Unless Heather, do you happen to know if the M510 works with Zone Director? I have one of my smart people on the phone with us.
Yes, it does.
There's your answer.
Awesome. See, any other questions?
I begged her to come on because I knew someone would answer.
Always nice to have.
She's way smarter than I am.
I think that looks like all the questions we have. See?
You guys took it easy on me today. Make sure to send me an email. send me that email if you have follow-up questions. Again, that's sean.lucas@comscope.com. And I will go get you some of those detailed answers you're looking for on those dates. And if you want to send me that Europe question too, I'll go dig something up.
Okay.
I'll reach out to a friend at the FCC and see if they know anything.
All right. Oh, two more questions came in.
We got a couple more coming in.
A couple more. Can the R310 work with LTE backhaul?
Does the R310 work? It would be with the Q410. I'm going to say, Heather, do you happen to answer on that one, or Hubie? I think it's 510 and up. I think the 310 doesn't. I don't think that backpack works with the 310. I think that's the exception, because that guy doesn't have a USB port on it to plug into.
Okay.
Almost anything with an R. Almost.
Okay, one more here. When is a more coming in. When is a Wi-Fi 6 H320 indoor access point going to be available? Do you know?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of the 300, the H300 and the H500 series questions. They are both in dev. They're coming as soon as our legs can carry us. I don't have an official date on that though.
Oh, this one's about your podcast. When will the podcast be available on Apple?
It was so it was put in let's see 6-7 days ago, and they take about 2 weeks. So give it about a week and it'll be on Apple. But it's already available on Spotify. It's already available. You can go to whatsthatruckus.com. There's 4 episodes up there, and I think Stitcher sent me one today. A few others, Tune In, Castbox. So it'll pop up all over the place. Give it about a week.
Okay, I have 2 more questions coming in. This one's about CBRS. Do you have any idea about general EU regulators' stand on CBRS frequency range approval?
I don't, but again, shoot me a quick email and I'll get you some answers before the end of the day.
All right. And then,
Sean, I suspect this will probably have a similar answer to that. We have a question around product fulfillment. Their partners being challenged by the R750 supply availability. What would you recommend to get more information on that?
So your inside salesperson is always going to be your best resource for some of that information. But again, product availability is that's kind of where distributors fall into line. So each individual distributor has a product advocate or evangelist on their team that's responsible for knowing kind of where we're at, right? So in North America, there's quite a few of those distributors. If you ask for whoever the product evangelist is at your distributor, they're going to have some of that key information because they're working with the Ruckus inside team. So start with your distributor and work up to the inside team if you can't get the answer that you're looking for.
All right.
Hey,
and by the way, the dates vary, right? I mean, I could tell you that one product is 3 weeks out, and as somebody just mentioned a minute ago in chat, and some products are as far as 19 weeks out. It just depends on demand. And demand is very, very high for some of these products, some of the CBRS products, some of the Wi-Fi 6 products, extremely high, which we love, but we just wish we could do it all at once.
I think Mo had a comment.
I apologize. I was multitasking. I heard E510, not M510. So the M510 is only on the Smart Zone, virtual Smart Zone.
There we go.
And we are fast tracking it for support on T-Mobile. So we are working with T-Mobile to get the certifications for that.
Okay, great. I think that was the last question. Oh,
you, Heather.
Where do we find the backpack for the R series APs?
That is I believe that's the Q400 series. Give me a second. That's the Q410.
Awesome.
Your Q410 is going to support the R510, the R610, and the R720.
Nice. All right. I think that's it. All right. That looks like that was all the questions. We will stay online for a few more minutes just in case you guys have a few more lingering questions. I would just like to remind everyone that we will be sharing the recording and the slide deck after the event, so look out for that in the next few days. Thank you so much to our presenter, Sean, and thank you everyone for joining us today. See you next week and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.